Something happened that's never happened before at the New York Times Dealbook interview of Bob Iger. Andrew Ross Sorkin got Bob Iger to discuss and maybe even admit that the Walt Disney Company has engaged in wokeness. But then Iger tried to pull a fast one by redefining the term into something that almost no one in existence has ever defined as woke. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Here in Part 7 of our Breaking Bob series, we're going through recent statements by Bob Iger, the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, right before Elon Musk made his own controversial statements about Bob Iger. This time, the subject is wokeness at the Walt Disney Company. Bob Iger let it slip in his conversation that the company has pushed messaging above storytelling in recent years, even seeming to state that it might have been former CEO Bob Chapek's fault. As I often have to debate the definition of woke on social media, generally it comes down to a disagreement between two very specific definitions. During the course of this interview, however, Bob Iger somehow thinks that he can get away with introducing a third definition. Of course, we noticed the sleight of hand right away. Let's get to it.
Part of what happened while you were gone from the company was a number of films that were greenlit that people were describing as woke, with quote woke characters.
He wasn't gone, right? He was still like the
Never.
head of the creative or whatever.
Which one are we talking about? Are we talking about Ike?
Iger. Sorkin here is telling him that Iger was gone, but Iger was never gone.
Exactly.
Right. So at the start of 2020, Iger stepped down as CEO and Chapek was in charge. But at that point, Iger's contract wasn't technically over as CEO. And he said, I am staying on as head of creative for the Walt Disney Company.
And haven't we decided the very first movies that Chapek actually personally greenlighted are yet to come out?
Yeah, that's true. Deadpool 3, which is not coming out until next year, is the, as far as we know, the first film that was greenlit specifically by Bob Chapek. And also Daredevil Born Again, which, you know, that's getting a restart here already. So that's going to get delayed if it ever had a release date. I can't remember. But that was also greenlit by Bob Chapek, and getting that character back from Netflix, that was all a Bob Chapek initiative. So
Right.
Yep.
Time you got back, and I don't know if people saw images of this, there was a morning outside of Disney World where there were folks literally with flags, swastika flags, and DeSantis flags,
anti-gay
flags, and guns.
Yes.
As families are trying to walk into the park.
Yep.
So
No, this is interesting. Of course, we didn't see the faces of this. I'm not going to try to defend these people or say that they were actors or anything like that. One of the protests, he doesn't mention the protest in front of Walt Disney World during the walkout, where there was literally one employee who showed up on his day off, and little fella standing in front of the Walt Disney World sign. Not the one that people actually see when they go to the parks, but one that's somewhere else on the in the Reedy Creek area.
Right.
That happens to have the Walt Disney sign. That's the one for photo ops that nobody really sees that one.
It's on the corner of across from a mall that is being torn down now. It is very, very far away. It's in the neighborhood hotels that are right there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me to see people that even DeSantis condemns being painted here as DeSantis supporters. So, fascinating.
Almost nobody uses them walking to the park either. So
yeah, this does kind of shows Sorkin's bias here as well, and makes him very suspect.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm curious what you think has happened and how you, as a company, are supposed to deal with that, and what you feel like you can say and can't say, given this remarkably polarized climate we're in right now.
You're talking about our content itself, or just positions the company takes on issues?
Both, meaning, do you fight with DeSantis? Do you create LGBT characters?
So complicated. Well, let me start with content and your comment about woke characters.
I asked him to clarify. He he said 3 or 4 words there, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to assume what you were actually talking about.
By the way, I'm pointing out that obviously Bob Iger has now said the word woke. He's been called to the carpet on the word woke, and so he's acknowledging the concept of woke here. So I think that that particular battle has been won in some level to say that is the word that they are using to describe this, even within the Walt Disney Company, even if they are using it, quote unquote, in quotes. If I could say
even if you go back to the beginning of the interview that Slade had us watch, Sorkin says that they were going to discuss wokeism.
Yep.
Our primary objective in creating content as a company, say for ABC News, which is obviously to inform, but is to entertain. Whether it's sports, whether it's Disney, whether it's Marvel, make things that entertain people. And the good news is there's a marketplace out there that demands entertainment. It's a fantastic business to be in because of that. I think what had happened over a period of time, it was building and building, and maybe I think it reached a peak of some sort while I was gone, is that creators lost
He does
sight
admit
of what
that
their
it was
number one
over a time, and he said while he was gone, it reached a peak, indicating that he was the one pushing it, or
Right.
passively
Yeah, well,
insinuating that.
Right. Obviously, the things that were going on, not just the pandemic situation, but also the riots and things that were going on during the pandemic. You have all these people pent up and getting very emotional about what has gone on in the world and injustice in the world. Now, I think what happened there is that obviously that boiled into a lot of people wanting to do quote unquote something. Some people went to the streets, and it seems like the people at the Walt Disney Company decided that they needed to exercise this on children's content.
Yes.
This also happened at Nickelodeon, by the way. Nickelodeon played an 8-minute clip or longer than 8 minutes of the sound of someone trying to breathe.
No, it's interesting.
Nickelodeon was running like PSAs and all this other kind of stuff too. It was outrageous.
It's interesting that he would say that it kind of peaked when he was gone. I remember Iger being very defiant at his first town hall when he just came back, suggesting that, well, we have to take a stance. I mean, even if it's not in the company's best interest.
Right. He compared himself to Martin Luther King Jr. in the civil rights movement.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And now, after a disastrous, slate at the box office, it's like, well,
well, sadly for him,
I'm not sure.
We now know the content of his character.
Ooh. Very well said. That's good.
Objective needed to be. Often when we entertain, and we've entertained as a company over the 100 years we've been in business.
Yep. Take credit for all that stuff that Walt Disney has done. Take credit for all that stuff that Eisner has done. Yeah, sure. And not to forget John Lasseter, who you bought from Pixar and then fired as soon as you thought you could do it on your own.
Have entertained with values and having a positive impact on the world in many different ways. I'd use Black Panther as a great example of that.
He loves to bring up Black Panther. He loves it.
He just loves that.
So he says this all the time. This is so rehearsed and hashed. I assume most people here have seen him say this stuff all the time, and it's just, come on, man, come up with a different narrative here.
He tries to say that Ike Perlmutter did not want Black Panther, who is, by the way, a legend in Marvel Comics and has so much fan support. He tries to play this as if people would not support Black Panther. And I'll also point out that when they did Black Panther, do you know what they did with Black Panther? They made it all about his supporting characters who happened to be predominantly female. So
they also introduced him previously to actually build
Civil War, yeah.
Yeah, so they do Black Panther, but at the same time, they, there's story reasons for doing this, but they decided to make Wakanda the character, and which means they made the women of Wakanda the character. And after Chadwick Boseman passed away, they decided not to recast, quote unquote, in his honor, but they also robbed, as has been said on the WDW Pro channel many times, that robbed a lot of young Black boys of a heroic figure that they were looking forward to seeing on the screen.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, I'm not going to understate how much of the movie had a cultural impact when it came out, but I mean, what is it, 2017, 2018 was when that came out? I mean, how many people are still dressing up as Black Panther for Halloween? I feel like the cultural impact just kind of run its course as well now.
Because
he's talking about Black Panther because the movie was subpar.
Because he's a great character. He was one of the characters I was looking forward to the most. Ever since Wesley Snipes was in his acting prime. I'm not saying the guy's not in his prime. He probably could still get in there and mix it up. And I would love to see an action movie starring Wesley Snipes right now. But this is a character that should have had a movie, I wouldn't say like 30, 40 years ago. And the idea that Ike Perlmutter was going to say no to a Black Panther movie if someone wanted to come along and fund it, which is, by the way, what the Marvel model used to be, have other people pay for their films. Look how well that's worked out now. This is a character that could have sold boatloads of action figures. But now they don't even want to have Black Panther as a character.
multiple theme park projects, by the way. We're in
Jonas,
the works.
other people funding the movies and making money from that is the equivalent of release your movies to Netflix and Amazon and make money versus Disney Plus.
Right. Right.
Just in terms of fostering acceptance, or the movie Coco, which Pixar did about the Day of the Dead. I like being able to do that. Entertain, and if you can infuse it with positive messages, have a good impact on the world, fantastic. But that should not be the objective. When I came back, what I've really tried to do is to return to our roots, which is, remember, we have to entertain first. It's not about messages.
As we've pointed out, Bob Iger with the initiative, he helped reimagine tomorrow, which is the source of a lot of this messaging. They did walk out the door. LaTondra Newton, who was the former chief diversity officer of the Walt Disney Company, is no longer with the company and decided to go off and focus more on her jewelry business. She's been replaced here, but we haven't seen a reduction in messaging any more than we've seen some awkward scenes get cut out of the Marvels.
Well,
I just want to point out that it's not the messaging that's the problem; it's the type of messaging that they're pushing. Like, obviously, you go back and you look at like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That obviously has themes and messages in it, but there are positive themes that you're supposed to be learning from, rather than the degenerate, like hedonistic messaging that we're seeing in stuff like The Proud Family, even in the Star Wars Jedi Adventures, where they're really pushing this stuff that's just immoral and outrageous and disgusting.
And he specifically uses the terminology positive messaging. And that's what he thinks of woke guys. That's what he thinks of DEI. That's what he thinks of these controversial things. He thinks of it as positive messaging that they're infusing with this. And, if it happens to work out, great.
Right. And did he just say Coco was messaging? Is that what
he said? He was using it as an example.
He didn't say it was about Latinos. He said it was about the Day of the Dead. That was the subject of the movie, according to him. I thought the subject of the movie was about family and about relatives and about music and it was a lovely movie.
Yeah, it was great.
Of all the things you could pick to describe it, the high concept, one-line TV guide description, a movie about the Day of the Dead would not sell tickets.
Right, that would confuse a lot of American parents. Now, obviously, it was a big hit in Mexico before it came out in Mexico before it came out in the United States. And I'll also point out that a lot of the last photos that we have of John Lasseter with the Walt Disney Company, he's wearing all of his Coco gear, like with those colorful Hawaiian shirts that he likes to wear. So
he literally learns about the controversies at home while doing press and promotion for Coco. So that's why.
All right. Well,
music in Coco is excellent.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you can.
Oh, absolutely. Remember me, that moment at the end of? Well, sorry, I don't want to spoil this movie. If anyone has not seen,
it's a great
Coco,
movie. It really
absolutely. Beautiful climax, classic Pixar, and the fact that they know every single thing that they need to do. Great images, in both in the story and the narrative. The music is poignant, and it's one of those things that you can go back and watch it again and realize that you are seeing things that you're noticing things that you looked at before, but you didn't really see what was going on. Very, very good movie. As opposed
the themes and messagings are positive and actually good. It's not whatever the crap they do now.
Yep.
2 songs from Coco and Luminous.
Yep.
Yeah, and if your story can have a positive impact, so there's that. And I've worked hard since I've been back at reminding the creative community, who are our partners, in some cases our employees, that that's the objective. And I don't really want to tolerate the opposite. So there's that. When it comes time to taking positions about issues, I have tried really hard over the years, and I'm not calling them politics because a lot of them are not politics. Sometimes it's what is right and what is wrong.
Okay, so this is the issue where we get into this, that you could call it a dog whistle to the people who want to believe that the company has been in the right the entire time. But you notice the next point that he gets into here, what he ends up going to is something that is a lot less controversial and not any of this gender ideology stuff.
Well, he gets to the Florida stuff a little bit, but he uses all of these other like milk toast examples.
And how many times he's going to say since I've been back?
They're also ridiculous.
How many? It would be fun to. I mean, I'd hate to watch this again, frankly, but to go through it all and pull it out and literally have a little drinking game of how many times does he say since I've been back, as if he was ever away.
To taking positions, I have tried really hard to apply a standard that is relevant to the, it asks, is this relevant to the company, to our people, to our company, to our shareholders? That's a very important test. So if we take a position on the environment, we care.
Okay, this is the question that he goes into, and it's such a milquetoast example. No one is against the environment.
It's so ridiculous. Just
yeah.
Let's listen to what he says, because it's so utterly ridiculous.
Yep.
Care about the health of our planet. It's because we believe that if the planet is not healthy, it will be bad for our business. People are not going to go to theme parks if they can't breathe the air.
Which, by the
way, you put 2 theme parks in a country that you can't breathe the air.
But the air is so clean in China. Oh, right. God!
Sorry, that one. Right. That one irritates me so much.
And how much green area did you tear down to build the non-working solar panels?
Yes. Well, so the solar panels issue, we covered this on the WDW Pro channel, and Culture, you were in that video, right?
Yes.
Everything's bleeding together. You got to forgive me here. The basic gist of that is the audit basically revealed that at least one of the power plants is not functional at Walt Disney World. They've got these massive solar farms. It sounds like the other power plant at Walt Disney World, the one that's not next to Magic Kingdom, the one at Epcot, that might be a facility where they are only boiling water that's being used. That they're trying to get capture of energy for the AC unit. So it's also not producing power. And also that power is being provided by a third party. So those solar panels, first of all, they only work during the day. Obviously, those theme parks, they function in the evening. Actually, Epcot, as that new park, that looks like there's a lot of fantastic lighting going on there. I'm going to compliment them on that aspect of World Celebration. So these solar panels are essentially as Obadiah Stane would say, that's a scheme to shut the hippies up, as it were. Those solar panels are essentially doing jack, as they jack into an outlet. I was making no other reference, and you heard nothing else.
And in building them, they tore up what would have been green areas with animals and plants and stuff that they say they're for.
Can we get a breakdown of the RCID energy services and see how much of the power that they're purchasing comes from coal? It's just laughable how he would say this was straight.
Well, I'll tell you this: about 100% of the power they use in China does.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
not only them, but the summer camp next door, all powered by coal.
And one of the theme parks they want to set up, in the future is India. So. 2 stewards of the planet for sure.
Yes, well,
all right.
They will find, as I've said before, that they should have gone to India first in the first place, because India's economy is not collapsing.
That's a very good point.
That's not politics. That's business. So if anyone has accused us of being political when it comes to that, they're just dead wrong.
This is such an obfuscation. He's hoping that no one has any idea what Disney has been up to in the culture war, because no one is going after Disney on their environmental stuff, other than the fact that we just obviously called out the untruth that he has told.
And
here.
For purely business reasons, let's go after people who don't have children for our company that deals in families with children.
Very good.
I could argue the same thing. Interesting to listen to the vice president about immigration. We have over 200,000 employees. We rely on a workforce that is talented, motivated, interested in working for our company. The more diverse it is, the better off we are, the more experienced. So a robust immigration policy.
Robust is not the problem. Enforcing the immigration policy is the problem.
And putting aside immigration, we want people who love us and want to work for us, as long as they don't say anything in their personal Facebook page that we don't agree with, in which case they get called to HR and fired.
Yeah.
Do
if they're in animation.
People remember the story where Disney's IT department working at RCD or the Florida resort, where they tasked them to teach or train
the people who are taking their jobs for half the money, something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Californians and Floridians that would probably like those jobs that he's bringing in other people from other countries to do.
Right.
Yeah, they're so pro-immigration that they would like for their positions to immigrate to other countries.
Exactly. They tasked the current IT department to train their replacements, which inevitably happened, and Bob Iger himself had to apologize for.
Yep. All right.
It's something that actually is pro-business for us, for instance. There are.
What does that mean, Bob? What does it mean by pro-business? Is the labor cheaper? Is that the pro-business? Is that why you're doing that?
I would say that the wages aren't the reason that people go to work for the Walt Disney Company.
That maybe we should not comment on because they're not relevant unless they are of such importance to the world. For instance, I think commenting about terrorist acts is perfectly reasonable for the CEO of a large company.
No one on either side gave Bob Iger trouble for commenting on what happened overseas right now. No. I don't know that anyone fought him on this, so I don't understand why he's bringing it up.
Well, it's because he's just trying to obfuscate the real question, which is about his comments in Florida.
Yeah. Yes, and he made comments not as the Walt Disney Company CEO, despite the fact that the Walt Disney Company CEO also commented on it. So this was part of his campaign to remove Bob Chapek from office.
Yeah, he wants to make you think that he didn't actually make a statement, because that's what he'll say here.
Thank you for tuning in. Of course, we release videos every single day here on That Park Place, including a daily breakdown every weekday at 11 going through entertainment, streaming, theme parks, and video games. In our next and final Breaking Bob, we'll be talking about the Walt Disney Company's fight with the state of Florida and their two proxies in the form of Bob Iger and Ron DeSantis. You won't want to miss it. Consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.